In a world that worships heroes after they die, some heroes spend their entire lives in the shadows. Ella Baker was born into this darkness in 1903, in the Jim Crow South, a place where a black child wasn't seen as a child at all, but an inconvenience. She grew up in a country split down the center, white only on one side of the street and silence on the other. From her earliest memories, Ella learned that her skin could get her punished or killed. People didn't stare at her with anger, they stared with practiced indifference, the kind that tells a child she isn't considered fully human. That silent cruelty shaped her more than any lesson ever would. Ella's grandmother had been enslaved, whipped for refusing to marry the man her enslaver chose for her. She carried those scars, both visible and buried deep, and she passed the story to Ella like an inheritance. As a child, Ella didn't learn fairy tales, she learned survival. White school children threw stones at her on the way to class. Teachers treated her like a problem, not a student. The world around her taught her one rule: stay quiet, stay small, but Ella never obeyed that rule. In her silence, she stored anger, not the loud kind, but the kind that one day builds a revolution. When the Great Depression hit, most Americans feared hunger. Black Americans feared being forgotten entirely. Ella moved to New York, desperate for work, but factory doors slammed in her face before she even finished speaking. "We don't hire colored women," they would say, without shame, without hesitation. She walked miles each day, looking for a job, a chance, a way to breathe. And yet, she observed, she listened. She realized the system wasn't broken, it was designed to keep people like her at the bottom. That realization changed her forever. The turning point came when a young black boy was murdered for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. For Ella, this wasn't a tragedy. It was a warning. A reminder that in America, the value of a life depended entirely on who owned the body it lived in. That night, something woke inside her, a fire that didn't burn for revenge, but for change. She would no longer wait for someone to save her people. She understood, the world listens only when someone forces it to listen. History books like to pretend the civil rights movement was built by a few men, but Ella knew the truth. Revolutions are built by ordinary people, mothers, workers, students, the unseen and unheard. And yet, even inside the movement, she faced sexism. Male leaders dismissed her ideas, smoothed over her sharp strategies, and told her to play her part. She refused. She challenged them openly. She didn't want glory. She wanted justice. But justice is expensive, and Ella paid with her peace. Behind closed doors, Ella was the architect of the movement, the mind behind strategies that shaped CSE, the organizer who trained young activists long before they ever stood in front of a microphone. She believed a leader shouldn't be worshipped, they should be multiplied, but the media wasn't interested in brilliant black women. Cameras turned away from her. History turned its back. She organized marches that shook the nation. Yet her name barely appears in textbooks. She was the spark that lit the torch others held. By the 1960s, the U.S. government knew Ella Baker was dangerous, not because she used violence, but because she woke up too many people. The FBI monitored her, tapped her phones, tracked her movements. They labeled her a subversive threat. She received anonymous letters, warnings, attacks on her character. Still, she never stopped. She moved like a ghost through the South, appearing where she was needed most, organizing quietly, powerfully, relentlessly. Fear never once controlled her, but it always followed her. Have you ever heard of Ella? Her story is one of incredible sacrifice. For the cause she believed in, she gave up everything: friendships, her marriage, even the simple comfort of a stable home. She slept wherever she could, on couches, church floors, and overnight buses. She pushed through fevers, hunger, and utter exhaustion, never once stopping. But the deepest cut wasn't physical. It was watching the very leaders she helped build completely erase her from the story. Imagine this. Night after night, after the cheering crowds left, she'd sit alone, drafting the plans that would change everything, knowing she'd never get the credit. Her fight was a lonely one, but for Ella, loneliness was a small price to pay for freedom. Her story deserves to be told. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more hidden histories. As illness crept into her later years, Ella slowed. But she never stopped. Even when her hands trembled, her voice still guided new generations. She wasn't chasing fame, she was building a world where no black child would grow up feeling the way she did. Unwanted, unprotected, unseen. She mentored quietly, spoke rarely, and refused every opportunity to glorify herself. She didn't want to be remembered as a leader, she wanted to be remembered as a teacher. Ella Baker died in 1986. No national tribute, no presidential speech, no spotlight. just silence, the same silence she had fought her whole life. But today, every march, every protest, every movement seeking justice carries a piece of her in it. She was never the face of the revolution, she was the heartbeat, a woman history. Tried to forget, but couldn't, because real power doesn't need a podium. Real power whispers, teaches, survives, and Ella Baker. She didn't change the world by being seen, she changed the world by refusing to disappear.